Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video. Today I'm here to do a wrap up of my 24 in 48 hour readathon. This is a readathon that took place over the weekend from 21st to 22nd. This is a readathon that wants you to try to read for 24 hours over 48 hours. So this was the first time that I participated in this readathon, and I was a little interested in seeing if I was able to actually read for 24 hours over this weekend. I didn't read 24 hours, but I was close to, and I ended up reading for 18 hours and 32 minutes. I'm a couple of hours away from it, but I also ended up reading 1,133 pages, and I ended up finishing 4 books and also get some headway into 2 other books. So I'm really happy about what I managed to read over the weekend, even though I didn't end up reading for the whole 24 hours. I'll try and do better next time. My main goal was to finish the books that I was currently working on. I ended up finishing all 3 of those books that I was working on, which I'm really happy about, and then I also finished 1 other book. So first, I started out Saturday morning by finishing Say You Will by Kate Perry. This is the first book in the series. It's called Summerhill. I think that's the name of the series. This follows this girl called Rosalind and a guy called Nick. Rosamund comes back. She's been living in San Francisco in the States for a couple of years. She started her own wedding design dressmaking company, but she's going home to England to his father's funeral. She's never had a really good relationship with her father. She actually pretty much hated him because he never really accepted any of the girls that he had. He had a lot of girls, he didn't have any sons to take over his heritage, so he blamed the girls for that. And so this was also sort of a family reunion thing where she met up with a lot of her sisters that she had a hard time getting along with because of things weren't really great at home. And so she gets there to his father's funeral, and she meets this man called Nick, who says he's a lawyer, but in reality he's actually her stepsister's brother. And the reason he's sort of lying about who he is because his stepsister wants to know part of the will. They don't know about their stepsister yet. They know there's someone, but they don't know who it is. And so this book focuses a lot on the will of her past father, just to see how much he gave his mom and all of that. So yeah, Nick and Rosamund obviously falls in love and all of that. And yeah, one of my main hated tropes is when a secret becomes the conflict of the book, if you get what I mean. And in this one, since he sort of starts out by saying he's someone else than he actually is, obviously it had to end up with this conflict. And yeah, I knew this was not going to be a book that I would completely enjoy from the beginning, but I ended up thinking it was okay, and I ended up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. It's probably not a series that I'll continue, but I am glad that I read it because it's been on my Kindle since, for a couple of years, so I'm happy I finished this one. And the next book that I finished was Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This was a book that I was 162 pages or something into it when I started on this readathon, and I ended up reading 250 pages of it. And this follows the 2 girls actually. It follows Safi and Isolde, and they are thread sisters, and that means they have this sort of bond together, and they'll sort of do everything for each other, no matter the cost. And even though they're very different types of witches. Safia is a truth witch, and she can tell when anyone lies, and it's a sort of thing that she hides, a magic that she hides from everyone, because if they know, they're gonna take advantage of her because it's a very powerful sort of magic. And then we have Isolde, she's from another sort of tribe, and she can sort of tell people's emotions by the different colors they sort of give off. I forgot the exact name of her witchery, but yeah, that's sort of what she can do. And then there's also this man called Merrick, who is a prince of another country, and he is to take Safia from one point to another without her getting injured, and he'll get sort of a reward from that. And then there's a blood witch who's also trying to track them down because he wants to use Safia for his own personal thing. Yeah, there's a lot of things happen. It's hard to explain it, but I actually ended up really enjoying this book. It started a little slow because we had to get into the sort of magic system and the world building. But after about 75 pages in, I felt like I started to get the gist of the system and how it all worked out, and also it changed perspective between Isolde, Safia, Merrick, and the Blood Witch. Those 4 different point of views, so you had to sort of figure out who everyone was, and that also took some time to get into. But I actually ended up really enjoying it, and I ended up giving this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So definitely a series that I'll be continuing with. I did think, however, that the last bit of the story, like the climax of the story, was a little rushed. So it felt like we didn't really get, a real clearance over what happened. And yeah, but I'm hoping we'll get a lot more about this in the next book, which has just come out. So I'm happy I'm able to get the next book in the series pretty soon. After finishing Truth Witch, I wanted to read something light. It was quite late at the first evening, and I felt like I needed something that was a little easier to read, so I picked up Nimona by Noelle Stevenson, a graphic novel about this girl called Nimona. Well, this is actually a graphic novel that's about this villain, a sidekick, and a hero. And Nimona is sort of the villain's sidekick. She just randomly walks into his lab one day and says that she's been assigned to his sidekick, and he doesn't understand why, because he doesn't think he hasn't heard anything about it. But turns out she's just deciding that she is. But he decides to take her along because he finds that she's a shapeshifter and she can change into any sort of shape that she wants. And then, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this graphic novel. I thought it was very fun and witty, and I loved the humor. It was just right up my alley, and the artwork is it was interesting as well, given I heard something, it was computer something, I don't even know what it means, but the artwork looks something like this. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. The best graphic novel I've read so far. Honestly, I haven't read a lot of graphic novels yet, but this is definitely the best I've read so far. After finishing Nimona, I wanted to dive into The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I was about 200 and something pages into it, and it's a 500 pages book. This book is a book that I've taken way too long to read. I started already back in the end of October, I believe. The last part of October, and I put it down because I had to join in some readathons, but I didn't pick it up again. And the reason for that is I felt like it was really, really slow going, especially the first 200 pages or so. I think the language is really, really beautiful, very beautifully written, and you can definitely tell that circus is how magical it is and how mysterious it is. You end up getting a good feel of how the characters are as well. But I felt like the chapters with Bailey and Poppy and Widget, which are like the side characters of this story, were actually my favorites because I felt like they were the ones that dragged the least. And I felt that was a little sad, but I did think the last 150-200 pages were really good and fast-paced, and I felt like I started to really get to know the main characters, Celia and Marcus, and I ended up really enjoying this book, and I thought the ending was pretty well done, and I still enjoyed the writing a lot, but yeah, I think I ended up on a 4-star for this because the writing and the setting and all that, but I'm also debating if it's a 3.5 stars because I had a hard time with it in the beginning. So this is a book that I'm sort of thinking about still. Do I really did I really want to give it that rating? My final feeling when reading this book was I was actually satisfied with the ending and how it all turned out. So that's why I ended up giving it a 4 stars. And then I've also been listening to an audio over this readathon. I have not finished it yet. I am 2 hours away from finishing it, and it's called Desire Unchained by Larissa Ione. This is the second book in her Nimona series, which is a paranormal romance series. It follows new couples with every book. That's sort of the norm with paranormal romance series. And this one follows this man called Shade and this girl called Runa. Shade is an incubus and Runa is a werewolf shapeshifter. They've sort of known each other from before Runa was changed into a werewolf, but they've been captured by someone and they're in captivity, and then something happens that makes them, since he's an incubus, he is living off sex, obviously. And she was in a position where she was about to change, in her changing phase, where it's a time where she's a little more, so it ended up they sort of have sex and then they bond, and then without wanting to. So yeah, this is sort of weird to talk about and hard to explain, but this is the gist of the story. I'm enjoying it so far. I feel like the narrator is good, and I think that Larissa Ione is good at making these paranormal romance series with actually having a little more depth to the story than just the sex part, which I think sometimes can take over a little too much when it comes to adult paranormal romances. But still, I'm not finished with it yet, so I can't really give my full opinion about it yet. So you'll have to check out my wrap-up by the end of the month if we want to know my final thoughts are about that. And finally, I also started in on Simon vs. Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I am 76 pages into this book, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I think the story is really cute, and I really like Simon as a character. I'm thinking I'll probably even be finishing this tonight or tomorrow. This is part of the Diversathon, so you'll see my thoughts about this when I do my Diversathon wrap-up by the beginning of next week, I believe. So these were all the books that I read or was close to finish over the 24 and 48. Let me know in the comments down below if you were participating in the readathon and how did you do. Leave links to your wrap-ups. I would like to see them as well. And if you liked the video, please give a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video, hopefully very, very soon. Goodbye!